HE News, episode number 23. Welcome back to another episode of Health Empowerment News with CROFT WOODRUFF. We're here again in Studio 604, and this week we've got more on the tale of Andrew Wakefield. Welcome back to another episode of Health Empowerment News. I'm here in beautiful British Columbia, downtown Vancouver, with CROFT WOODRUFF.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, CROFT, and good to be back again. This is our second episode after our rather long hiatus.
Yes, just the way things work out.
And I guess we'll just review what we're going to talk about so people can know what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit about the new book that the Mayo Clinic is bringing out. It's called Science-Based Home Remedies, I believe. And they basically looked at all the science behind commonly held beliefs about home remedies.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about a little bit about more Dr. Andrew Wakefield and what's been going on with that little bit of news there.
Yeah.
And then also Dr. Sherry Tenpenny and what she thinks about the childhood vaccines and what you should consider if you're considering vaccinating your child and the resources and who to talk to and where to look for information.
Yes.
So let's start with the Mayo Clinic's book. What are your thoughts, your initial thoughts on that? I know you haven't.
I could tell you this, that even before I cracked it open, I have an idea of what the contents would be. And I would say virtually nothing good to say about home remedies, not supported by their science, and that would be the long and short of it.
Mm-hmm. There's a blog that focuses, it's called Science-Based Medicine, and it's kind of an anti-quackery book. So you know right away where they're coming from, or a website, I should say. And the author of this post at www.sciencebasedmedicine.org is writing a little review of the book. And he says at first he thought that this was going to be a big, infestation of quackery into the prestigious Mayo Clinic, and he was really concerned. And after he looked at the book, he says that he can't find anything to be too critical about. And basically, they talk about in the book, they go over everything from acne to airplane ear, bed bugs, boils, bronchitis, dandruff, depression, diabetes, warts, wrinkles, and wrist pain.
Airplane ear? Well, you can get airplane ear just by driving up to Mount Seymour, up to where the TV and television transmitters are, at about the 4,000 foot level or something like that. You'll have airplane ear, and what you do is hold your nose and blow.
Yeah, it's called the Valsalva maneuver.
Yes.
Yeah, scuba divers know that one very well.
Yes.
And so the book starts off with each entry consists of description and the problem and its symptoms, treatments that you can try at home, and then when to seek professional medical help. And basically, I saw this on the news last night, and the doctor that was involved said that the one thing that he was surprised the most was the saline solution is good for, he said, many, many things that he was surprised to see that there's evidence to support that.
Well, that's why when you go into hospital, they'll hook you up to a diuretic for whatever reason. And I know that experience. And when they do that, it causes you to pass water like Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. You know, and they give you two what they call pee bottles to contain the urine. I guess they figure you're going to really fill them up during the night. God, what an experience.
Yeah, and it goes on to say things like garlic for blood levels of cholesterol and high blood pressure. And they say that there is some evidence for cholesterol, but not for high blood pressure and things like that. And then it also goes on to say, don't use high doses of vitamin C for things like gout and all this kind of stuff.
Really?
But I mean, you're a big proponent of using high doses of vitamin C for a number of different...
I've taken as much as 20 grams in 2 liters of water and drink it down a big glass at a time, and slowly, but to bring it down. And it's worked very well as a laxative and without affecting my blood pressure, my equilibrium, my trend of thought, or whatever. Just felt 100%. And I'll tell you something else that is not generally known about vitamin C is that about 25 grams apparently can knock out a $200 opium addiction.
That was what Dr. Hoffer was doing in Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah.
He was dealing with alcoholics and
and it can help with that. And of course, for people who are suffering from schizophrenia can benefit from high doses of niacin. And that's how he found out that niacin actually lowered cholesterol.
And is any of this work, the studies by people like Hoffer and Linus Pauling and the Shute brothers,
all of this has been published in scientific journals. Might not have ended up in say a journal published by the Mayo Clinic, but certainly medical journals. Nevertheless, I think the Canadian Medical Journal published some things relative to the Shute brothers and some other Canadian doctors that found some interesting things about vitamins and minerals. And
but is this kind of work? Is this something that would be included in a book like this? Home remedies, what you can
not bloody
do
likely.
For the most common health problems. That's the name of the book, the Mayo Clinic Book of Home Remedies.
No, you wouldn't. If anything, they would be knocking the vitamins, as I have noticed. Well, a perfectly good example is vitamin C. I have yet to find anything in the literature, the scientific literature, medical literature, to be more precise, that validates that taking massive doses of vitamin C is dangerous, not even fatal. Of course, I mean, fatal is the ultimate danger, isn't it? Fatality. But there's nothing like that. And we can look at this recent incident in New Zealand, where this man was dying from H1N1 flu, and everything that all that was in their medical bag of tricks in the New Zealand hospital, in Auckland Hospital, couldn't do anything for the man, and they wanted to take him off life support, which they had him on. He was in that bad a shape, and his family, his brothers and children and his parents wouldn't hear of it. They said, try vitamin C, 200 grams of vitamin C administered intravenously twice a day. Oh, that wouldn't work. Well, have you tried it? No. Well, then how can you say it doesn't work? It's too dangerous. How do you know? Have you tried it? No. Then you can't say it's too dangerous. And it was quite a struggle. And finally, they got around to giving him 1 gram of vitamin C IV. And guess what? They noticed a slight improvement. They couldn't deny that. So eventually they had him up to 75 grams, and he really improved. Then they moved him to another hospital, and of course the hospital administrator there had gone along with this, but he went somewhere else. New guy came in and he canceled all that. Doesn't work. What are you talking about? And they had to go to a lawyer and show that they have no right to deny. This is a New Zealand constitution. They have no right to deny a person access to a therapy that they believe and of which they have evidence to show is of benefit. And so they reneged, or I should not renege, they gave in.
Mm-hmm.
And they started giving him higher doses. They were doing, they kept him at the 75-gram level and then a little higher, if I recall. And the long and the short of it, he got rid of all this evidence of flu. And there was another benefit that he was able to enjoy thanks to the high doses of vitamin C. While they were trying to deal with the H1N1 virus flu, swine flu, I guess it is, he had signs of leukemia. And
he was diagnosed with leukemia?
Yes, he had signs of leukemia onset. Those symptoms all disappeared as well.
Very interesting.
For those who say taking too much vitamin C is dangerous, I would say not taking any vitamin C is dangerous too.
Mm-hmm.
More dangerous.
Well, you've talked about how we're one of the only creatures on the planet that don't produce our own vitamin C.
Yeah, well, we have the ape family and the orangutans, the great apes, all the monkey tribe. None of them that I don't even know if there is an exception of, but they all do not have the ability to make vitamin C in their liver. That also goes for a fruit-eating bat. It also goes for a guinea pig. A species of fish apparently can't make its own vitamin C.
Like a flounder or something like that.
I'm not just sure what the fish is. And I think that is about the long and the short of it as far as critters that can't make their own vitamin C besides human beings. And so we have to get it from our diet. And I guess people who have a taste for liver but don't take vitamin C or didn't know about it, 50 or maybe 100 years ago, were doing themselves a favor eating beef or pork or chicken liver. And I imagine even you can eat fish liver too, for that matter. So there it is.
So it's high in vitamin C?
It's high in vitamin C and other B vitamins and minerals such as that we need, such as iron and so on. So, it's just amazing how these things are not thought out. It really flabbergasts me when all their scientific knowledge that they can overlook something as simple as that. Mm-hmm. The very fact that we can't make it has to be in our diet if we are going to survive. And without it, the scurvy is one sign, but I would suggest that's the end stage. You're now dying for a lack of vitamin C, or in the case of the New Zealand man, because you're dying because you can't overcome this flu, and everything in the medical armamentarium is not able to deal with it. But along comes good old vitamin C, and bingo, it's gone. Not to mention the symptoms of onset leukemia. So, this is a lesson in itself, but nobody seems to want to follow up on it. It should have been on the front pages of our Vancouver Sun.
So an animal that does produce vitamin C when they're under stress, like a goat under stress,
they'll produce something like several grams, I think in the neighborhood of maybe 100 grams or more in a very short period of time if they're under stress. They will synthesize it, and they have the metabolism to do it. But we don't, and when we're under stress, our needs for vitamin C can go up, I guess, exponentially, really. Shock, stress, serious injury, and of course, shock goes with the injury. So the first thing we should be doing is giving a person an IV of vitamin C when they're in shock, instead of some of these other drugs that have serious side effects.
I believe it was Linus Pauling that said that he believes it's a defect, a genetic defect, that we don't produce vitamin C.
Yeah, it may very well be, because there are those who believe that we evolved from the apes. They are our closest relative, and they can be pretty intelligent animals as far as, but sometimes I think they're more intelligent than mankind because they're smart enough to stay in the jungle and make do living there.
True. So, do you have anything else to say about, this topic about the book and what people should be?
Well, this seems to correspond a trend that's been showing or surfacing recently in the media: the knocking of natural medicine, the knocking of organic foods versus foods that are grown commercially with chemicals, and of course the knocking of vitamins and minerals, and there's no evidence to show this, that, or the other thing. ignoring all kinds of scientific literature, which in fact says the opposite. These are very important and should not be ignored. And when you look at it from the standpoint, after the oil companies, what are the most powerful industries in the world? It is the pharmaceutical industries. And they buy and sell politicians like you'd buy commodities on the stock market. They finance their election campaigns. And the result is that you see these laws coming out, knocking food inspection, taking away the regulations that protect us from certain chemicals and things like that, requiring stronger drug regulations. All of these are by the board. And what do we see? We have people dying from drug overdoses or drug misuse by the doctor, not knowing that they're using the wrong drug for whatever the application they're giving it. It's just unbelievable. I can tell you this. I know for a fact that in our hospitals in BC, that somewhere somebody is getting a antibiotic IV for an infection they don't have. Mm-hmm. I know because that happened to yours truly. And only because I questioned the nurse who was ready to administer it, what was that for? And he said, it's an antibiotic. I said, antibiotic? I don't have any infections. Oh, he says, oh, yes, you have a urinary tract or bladder infection. I said, no, I don't. I would certainly know if I did have one. So he went back. This is in the emergency of the hospital. I'd had a transient ischemic attack where you have a little bit of dizziness and the loss for getting some words out. And they ask you, your name, your birthday, and so on. And it was only for a few seconds, but they put me right into emergency. I had this happen before. I've had several now that I've seen some of the brain scans that they've done, and I'm going to have some more done. After all, I'm 76 going on 79 in August.
76 going on 79?
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe longer than that. No, 77 in August. There you are. Maybe I had a little TSA there or TIA, whatever. The bottom line is this, that at 76, and where I am now, I've already passed the lifespan of the average Canadian male. They're usually gone by 76 years of age, and except for this potential for a brain hemorrhage and a stroke, and I know what to do about that. And of course, over my lifetime, I've had falls where I've given my head a real bad whack. And in fact, right in the area of the skull and the brain where these things do occur. So they're looking for my heart's okay, my carotid artery's okay, my lungs are okay, everything else is okay, but it's in my brain, and my cholesterol levels apparently are okay. So they want to give me baby aspirin to keep my blood from there. Well, I can take vitamin E for that, and I just have to increase it to a higher level than what I have been taking. Mm-hmm. And, of course, keep my vitamin C levels up, too. So there it is. So now that you know my medical history, you can do with it as you will. Oh, that Woodruff, he's just a sham. But the bottom line is that there is an attack against not only natural medicine, but orthomolecular medicine. Orthomolecular medicine means using the right molecule for the right condition. And that means vitamins and minerals, amino acids, certain hormones, such as thyroid hormone, certain enzymes, certain fatty acids, sterols, and so on. That's pretty well the list, and I'm sure there's a couple more that I haven't thought of. And the bottom line is that that's what they're after because they fear the competition. If you've got a license to sell drugs, and that's just about the way it is in North America, and I'm sure in Europe and in the rest of the world, it's a license to print money. And this is one reason why it's to Big Pharma's advantage to cut back on the use of vitamins and force people to use drugs instead. When for every drug that is out there, there is, I'm sure, a vitamin and a mineral option. One of the reasons why people are suffering heart attacks is not because of cholesterol, but because they lack sufficient magnesium in their diet. They're not getting enough fruit and vegetables that are high in magnesium. And the fact is that magnesium regulates your heartbeat. It is a muscle relaxant. And if you take nothing but calcium for your bones, you're asking for trouble. You should be taking exactly the same amount of magnesium that you are taking in calcium. And the intake should be in excess, I think, of 1,200 or better milligrams of calcium as calcium citrate, and an equal amount, 1,200 plus milligrams of magnesium as magnesium citrate. And if you get some potassium and some zinc and a wee bit of manganese in there and selenium, then you're doing yourself a big favor if it's in the formula. And there are some very good brands that come in hard shell gelatin capsules in powder form so that they are emulsified very quickly in your food and stomach juices when you're eating these things. And then you are assured of better absorption in the gut, and from the gut, I should say.
So at what point would you recommend someone to take a supplement versus just ensuring it's in their diet?
I would start any time now.
You mentioned fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, well, they should be eating lots of green salads and colored salads and lots of colored vegetables. Everything like the red, green, and yellow and orange peppers and the onions and the garlic, of course, and all these different leafy vegetables, the spinach leaves that you see in the supermarket now. You see all the, and a lot of them are organic too, I notice, and in a nice oil and vinegar or wine and oil dressing that is flavored with some nice herbs and that sort of thing. You're doing yourself the biggest favor, And it's funny, I have to give White Spot a plug. They have a spot salad. And it's a salad like that. It has these in it. The only thing I think they need to do is put in a lot of peppers in there as well. But they also have sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. And it really makes a very nice salad to go with the meal.
So if somebody is taking care of themselves with this really good, rich diet and vegetables and fruits and everything that they should be doing, do you recommend still taking a magnesium and calcium supplement?
I would definitely recommend that they take a calcium and magnesium supplement. If they can find and I'm sure they can find a physician that practices orthomolecular medicine, they should ask if they can have a test for mineral level. You'll have to pay for it because it won't be covered by Medicare, but have a test for your mineral balances in the body to see what you're short on. Mm-hmm. And you can have what they call a chelation challenge. And they put a chelating material, a chemical that is non-toxic. They put it through you, and it will take minerals out of your body, and you can see what the ratio is. And the bottom line is, then they know what you are lacking and what you need to be putting into your diet. And I mean, that's as far as the minerals are concerned. Now, it does pay to take vitamin C because you don't make it anyways, and this just might be your needs are not enough to be met, or I should say, are much greater rather than what would be met by a good vegetarian diet, even 100% vegetarian diet. So it would be a good idea to take extra vitamin C, and definitely, as far as I'm concerned, vitamin E. And vitamin D particularly is very important. Vitamin A and D, vitamin D itself, they know it has reversed cancer. I can tell you this was published in the Canadian Medical Journal not too long ago, within the last couple of years. Work that's being done in the Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto, and they had several men. I think it was about 14 or 15. I could be wrong on that. It might even be more. Who were all suffering from prostate cancer. They were given 4,000, 5,000 international units of vitamin D, and this is natural vitamin D. Which you can get very easily in your health food store from a reputable brand like Natural Factors. And the bottom line is that those cancers disappeared. And they now know that vitamin D protects against cancer. So when we're worried about the sun causing cancer because of too much sunshine, actually it's the reverse. Not enough sunshine can make us vulnerable to cancer. And if you're concerned about getting too much sunshine, well, besides, I wouldn't use sunscreens, because when people make the mistake when they sunbathe, just go and have a shower right away. They're not giving the oil on your skin, which is number 7 dehydrocholesterol, which is the same cholesterol in your bloodstream, and the interaction of the vitamin, the ultraviolet B rays from the sun interact with that and change it into a form of vitamin D. I guess it's a preform, which, when absorbed into the skin, into the lower levels of the lower layers of the skin, is converted into vitamin D as we know it. And so if we have a bath right after sunbathing, we're making a big mistake. We should be stinkers and give ourselves a couple of hours before we bathe, so that we absorb that gift of nature.
Wow, that's very interesting. I guess the key is not to be exposed to the sun to the point where you burn.
Of course not. I mean, let's be, no more than about, I would say, 20 minutes maximum out in the sun with full body exposure, and then get in the shade and put on some nice light cotton clothing that help you keep cool, and sit under a nice umbrella or a nice shady spot. That's all you have to do. And I'll tell you one thing else, that vitamin C is very good to help you protect against sunburn. It's a powerful healing agent. Anytime I cut myself, I increase my vitamin C, and I heal up very quickly. I had a laugh when I was on these IVs, and they pull out the IV, or put a new one in, and guess what? The good old vitamin C caused the healing to occur very quickly. My blood dried up very quickly, and didn't have to keep a bandage on all day or something like that.
Cool. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so a lot of that information is really good to know about vitamin C and vitamin D and magnesium and calcium and all this stuff that we need to know, and that's why we're doing this show.
Health empowerment,
Health
indeed.
empowerment news. And I just want to also say before we get into the next segment is, like we said last week, in dealing with these kind of issues, we're doing this show for informational purposes, and that always see a qualified health professional when you're thinking about these kind of issues and what you want to do and take action with your health care decisions. And it can be a medical doctor, it can be a naturopath, it can be whoever you want to see, but make sure you're getting advice from people that are trained and qualified
in these fields. Absolutely.
In these fields, yes.
But if you have a medical doctor who knows nothing about vitamins and in fact dismisses them, I would be inclined to not just walk away, but run away and find somebody who does agree with the use of supplementation, and of course knowing the importance of diet, because it isn't just 3 squares a day. It's what's in those 3 squares.
Mm-hmm. And Valerie went for, when she was looking for a new doctor, she found one that actually she's a medical doctor, and she is very open to orthomolecular medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And she went there for a number of different issues. And you should have seen what she was prescribed. And it wasn't the typical stuff you'd expect. It was high doses of omega-3 and
essential fatty acids. Yeah,
essential fatty acids, a very good dose, and vitamin C and all sorts of things. I looked at the list. I'm like, wow, yeah.
Yeah. See, magnesium, by the way, is very important for birthing, because it helps to relax the birth canal. So if you're getting enough magnesium in your diet, it would be an easy thing. I can remember when my sister-in-law had her first baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she, in the birthing room, and the doctors and the nurses said, "Are you okay? She's munching on an apple." And delivering the baby, and it just came away so easy. No pain, no discomfort. just like that. That was her first baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing with the second baby, and the same thing with the third baby. And now they are adults, and they are, they've got, the oldest has got a 24-year-old son and I guess a 15-year-old daughter. And the next oldest, she's got I guess about a 20-year-old daughter. And another one that's about maybe 10 years old, another daughter. And my grandnephew, he's got a 14-year-old son. He's got, he's got 3 daughters. The oldest one is about 12. These girls are very musical. It's going to be very interesting. They have 2 pianos, including the one that I gave them. They use the piano that my mother had bought for my brother and I. And I'm sure glad they've got them. And then they went and adopted a little Indian baby. Maybe he was about 3 or 4 months when they got him. And he'll have a great future.
Very cool. And speaking of babies, we're moving on to the main topic of this episode, which is Dr. Wakefield and everything that's been going on with the attack on his work and his fight to, vindicate himself. And there's I'll post on the show notes of this episode on Natural News. They did a series of video interviews with Dr. Wakefield and his response to everything that's been going on. He's been interviewed by
Dr. Gary Null, for one.
Yep. Well, he's been interviewed in the mainstream media by a number of journalists who are largely uninformed on the issue, and he was, asked a series of rapid fire questions, accusing him of
fraud,
being a quack, and all this kind of stuff, and basically not giving him the opportunity to answer any of the questions properly.
By the way, in a debate or any kind of discussion, whether it's scientific or political, the refuge of a scoundrel when they lack the facts and really haven't got a handle on the issue is name calling and character assassination. So you can see where this he's not even a scientist, this journalist, Brian Deere, he's more or less a freelancer in the pay of the owner of Fox News, the owner of, I guess, the Sunday Times in England. His name is Rupert Murdoch. And this man, obviously, well, what can I say? This Brian Deere is just relying on false accusations, not a bit of scientific. And not only that, we have 12 other physicians and scientists who worked independently and unknowing of the work of Dr. Wakefield before he came up with what he found. And I notice that Mr. Deere doesn't touch them because they're saying exactly the same thing. And there is a very powerful letter that was sent to the British Medical Journal editor, Fiona Godley, making these very important points. It will be interesting to see if anybody gets a response, because I copied that letter and readdressed it in my own name and sent it off to her and politely asking a response. And then after I saw the Vancouver Sun's guest editorial yesterday from the Ottawa Citizen, again attacking Dr. Wakefield, I took the opportunity of making a copy of that letter, sending it off by email to Patricia Graham, who is the editor of the Vancouver Sun, and asking her if she would be so kind as to form a similar letter with the same questions and requesting an answer to this Fiona Godley, editor of the British Medical Journal. Surely she could do no less than that. And if she doesn't, then we know where the Vancouver Sun is coming from, and I'll have plenty to say about that if I don't hear back.
Well, I think that in in terms of this doctor, or sorry, not doctor. What's the guy's name? John Deere?
Brian Deere.
Brian Deere?
Yeah.
In terms of him not being a scientist, I don't think that's too much of an issue. He's a journalist, so I don't think he needs to be
But he
scientist.
hasn't got the medical background.
No, but that's okay. That's okay, because a lot of people who comment on this kind of an issue don't have the medical background. They're just journalists that are commenting on and interviewing people, and the problem I see it is that natural news.
But he has to resort to slander.
Well, and
character assassination.
Hang on. The issue I see is that in mainstream journalism, journalists are supposed to present a balanced, unbiased perspective, and in this case, this is not happening, and he's not in any way proclaiming a bias. Like, okay, for instance, Health Empowerment News, we are talking about natural solutions. We're talking about health, how to take care of your health using vitamins, minerals, and things like that.
And I will admit, I have a bias. I have a bias.
We have a bias, and we don't proclaim that we don't have a bias. Natural News, Dr. Mercola, all these various websites out there, they have a bias towards natural medicine, and they're not hiding that.
No.
Now, a journalist who is presenting their stories as facts or without revealing their bias or the bias of the organization they're working for.
What about the references? There are no references in his attack.
Yeah, so that's where I see the problem. Yeah. I don't see the problem necessarily that he doesn't have a science background.
Well, I'll grant you that. But,
yeah.
But Gary Null did take him on and recorded Deere's response to his questions. And then what he did was, that is Gary Null, then presented Deere's response to Null's questions to Dr. Wakefield, and Dr. Wakefield had the opportunity to rebut, which is more than the British Medical Journal had done.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the link to that on the show notes. Also, the link to the Natural News videos where Dr. Wakefield was given a fair opportunity to answer his critics with Mike Adams at Natural News.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember in all of this is that why is Brian Deere just focusing on Dr. Wakefield when, like I pointed out, there's at least 12 other health and medical professionals who carried out the same research that Dr. Wakefield carried out, but had carried out prior to what Dr. Wakefield's findings were. So why doesn't Brian Deere include them in his attack, as he has failed to do? Now, there's something very rotten here. And for someone like the editor of the British Medical Journal to overlook that, it just smacks of what else but a conspiracy to destroy somebody.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, she is
a medical doctor?
She's a medical doctor, and she has come out strongly against vaccines, infant vaccines in particular. And she is she was also interviewed on Natural News recently, and she is saying that the vaccine industry is basically a big moneymaker for big pharma.
When they make it mandatory, when they make it mandatory, that is a license to print money, because parents are forced to have their infants vaccinated in many states in the United States, and I guess in other countries in the world that I'm not aware. I don't know that they're mandatory in this province.
In France, they're mandatory.
Yeah, and the push to vaccinate is very, very strong right here in Vancouver, where we're broadcasting from.
Mm-hmm. So what she's saying is that if you could cut out 90% of the vaccination that's taken place, because let's face it, there's over the years they've increased the number of vaccinations quite a bit. Yeah. And her solution is that if you get the levels of vitamin D up to optimal levels, then this healthcare problem wouldn't exist.
Oh, by
and
the
that
way,
people would be healthy.
Just to remind you about taking too much vitamin D, and in this case, taking too much vitamin A, and it happens to be we're dealing with fish liver oil, namely mega halibut liver oil. Each capsule contains 10,000 international units of vitamin A and 400 international units of vitamin D. My grandnephew, who's now 24, and he's never been vaccinated, by the way, when he was about 3 years old, got into a brand new bottle. And this is a warning to people. You should really keep these things out of your children's reach. But it just happened that he got hold of it, thought it was candy, opened up he was able to pull the seal off that locks the cap on, take the cap off. And when my niece discovered it, all she could find was about 50 capsules. And as far as she can figure out, he swallowed at least 100 because there's 180 in that bottle. And they're very small, but, and very easy to swallow. And when she phoned my mother, she says, "Grandma, Ryan swallowed all this vitamin A and D." My mom said, "What's he doing?" "Oh, he's in the middle of the floor playing with his toys." Grandma said, "Forget about it. Don't worry about it." And she didn't. And my grandnephew sailed through childhood without any problems at all. And he's a strapping 6-footer, and he's a chick magnet. That's what he is. Anyhow, and, it's good to see that.
Yeah. So Dr. Tenpenny, she says that true health cannot come from a needle. Injecting people with something to try and keep them healthy is a 200-year mistake.
Yeah, and it's not only that. What's in that vaccine? They've had to take some things out, like aluminum, and I don't think they've taken the mercury out of all of the vaccines. I think it's still in this H1N1 flu vaccine. Mm-hmm. This is a neurological poison, and the amounts for an infant are far, far in excess of what would ever be any rational scientist or physician would want to give to a child. It's a brain poison. And the bottom line is that there are other things in those vaccines what you would call emulsified and sort of incubated disease tissue that is supposed to stimulate an immune response relative to the disease that the child is being vaccinated against. I don't like the idea of having pus and decomposed material and otherwise desiccated material from another creature injected into my bloodstream or into my tissues.
Mm-hmm. So let's just get into, because we're getting to the end of the show here, let's get into the resources and the professionals and for people, like myself who are going to be having a child soon and are faced with that decision to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. Mm-hmm. Who would you recommend they see? What books or websites? What kind of research should they do so that they know that they're making an informed decision? Because usually, if you go to your medical doctor, they're going to advise vaccination. Most doctors will. And
some will take the attitude, well, if you want it, I'll give it to you, but they don't push it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of those around.
So where can people go? Where can they turn to?
Well, the first thing they should do is ask their doctor. Would they object to not taking the child not being vaccinated? See what they have to say. If they get hostile, then it's time to find another doctor. Mm-hmm. And you should say, "Doctor, I'm in favor of taking vitamins and mineral supplements. And these are our health standards in our household. I want your opinion. Are you in favor of this?" And if the doctor has some strong criticism, then I would take my business somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Is there any websites or studies or any?
Well, you can go to Health Action Network, which is a consumer health organization interested in educating the public about health empowerment. taking personal responsibility for your health and your life, in effect. And they have a roster of physicians. You can also look in some of these magazines like Option or The Healing Journey. And
The Healing
Journey.
Journey?
Yeah, not journal, but Healing Journey. Yeah.
Journey, okay.
And of course, you will find some alternative physicians have got their card up there, if you will, and they're advertising, in other words, and you can check them out.
And what about the Townsend Letter?
Yeah, well, there's an excellent journal, a Townsend Letter for Doctors. I forget what the cost per year. It's a monthly journal.
I think it's about. I subscribe to it, but I don't even remember.
It's $50 US.
Yes, it's something like that. Yeah.
Even if it was $70 US, it's money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's written and edited by medical doctors, some of the finest medical doctors in the United States, and I think they have some from Canada as well. I can think of Jonathan V. Wright of the Tahoma Clinic in Renton, Washington. His colleague, Dr. Alan Gaby, who is a regular contributor.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they've had published work by Dr. Abe Hoffer,
mm-hmm.
and some other
Ralph Moss.
Ralph Moss, yes, yeah. And on and on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what about in terms of studies and whatnot with autism and things like that, and the possible link?
I would get a subscription to the Age of Autism. You can get it by email, and I would recommend that to bring you up to speed as to what is going on and what is recommended, and where. And of course, you'll be really up to date as far as the situation with Dr. Andrew Wakefield and the character assassination that's going on there.
Mm-hmm. I would also recommend following Dr. Sherry Tenpenny's work, and if you're on Facebook, follow her on Facebook. She puts out a lot of information mm-hmm. there about the vaccine industry, and
that's very important.
And exposing the level of actual scientific evidence behind the vaccine mm-hmm. industry, and whether or not these adjuvants and the mercury and aluminum and other things in the vaccines have been adequately studied, which she claims they have not.
No. Like I said, mandatory vaccinations is a license to print money. And of course, I have to remind folks, if the vaccines are as safe, never mind effective, as far as I'm concerned, they have to be safe before you'll even consider them being effective, because you can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it boils down to this. If they are so safe, how is it, in the United States, the law is that it's illegal to sue a vaccine manufacturer for injury or death caused by the vaccine. Instead, since 1988, they have had in place a vaccine adverse event reporting system, as well as a vaccine injury compensation program. Since then, they've spent or paid out over $2 billion for vaccine injury and death. Now, that's an awful lot of money in just since 1988, and this is 2011. An awful lot of money for something that is supposed to be so safe. And of course, the other thing is just read the vaccine insert if you're so inclined, and see what is in it, and see if there is any disclaimer on the part of the vaccine manufacturer with regard to liability. And I think you'll find that there is a disclaimer regarding liability. And if it was so safe, you would think that would not be necessary. They don't have a disclaimer on vitamin E and vitamin E and the B vitamins, by example. So why do they have... And in Canada, you can sue the vaccine manufacturer, but I think more and more you're going to be seeing that the Canadian government will be taking responsible for liability, which means that you, the taxpayer, is going to foot the bill. Are you paying enough taxes now?
Yes, I believe I am.
Most Americans think so. And there it is. Why should and if you've got a gold mine, which is what it is when you've got a license to print money in the case of mandatory vaccinations, you're going to fight like HE double toothpicks to hang on to that license. And they're going to do everything they can. And I'm sorry to say, I wouldn't be surprised if they stoop to murder. Certainly in the case of Dr. Wakefield, character assassination and slander, to keep that license going. And I say this, let them have their vaccines, but don't make it mandatory. Yeah. Because you'll soon find out one way or the other what the score is.
Yeah, I just can't see, I just don't understand how they could make it mandatory. It would be a violation of our rights and freedoms.
Well, it is a violation of human rights, and I'm surprised that it's that in France that it is mandatory.
You can't send your child to public school
without the vaccines.
Without vaccination.
Well, then the answer is to take your kid out of school and do homeschooling. And I tell you, I have a very good friend who is a very strong advocate of homeschooling. As far as he is concerned, this whole system needs to come down, and the only way we're going to do it is to take our children and grandchildren out of school and do homeschooling. And you'll find you can go to a Hutterite families. They don't have vaccines, and they have very healthy people, and they do their own homeschooling. And the same thing with other communal groups. I can think of the Doukhobors. I don't know how active they are in my home territory of the West Kootenays anymore, but there are others, other religious sects that don't go for this sort of thing, and they also are strong on homeschooling. And I find that many of these people from these sects have a lot more on the ball politically than those who go to public school.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on that note, I think we will call it a show, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you for listening to another episode of Health Empowerment News with CROFT Woodruff. We'll be back again next week. Hope you join us. To join us on the show, call 1-877-636-1474 to leave a comment, question, or suggestion for Health Empowerment News. See you next week.